Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. When Stephen Colbert announced that his late-night show was being canceled back in July, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, had a chilling reaction.
Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going. I don't know, but I would imagine because they get, Colbert has better ratings than Kimmel or Fallon. You know that.
They're next. I hear they're going to be going. Well, tonight, an ABC spokesperson confirms that Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show has been preempted indefinitely. Now, it comes just hours after a large set of ABC affiliates announced they would refuse to air Kimmel's show. They say because of comments the late-night host made on Monday night relating to the motives of the man that shot and killed Charlie Kirk, wrongly suggesting the killer was part of the MAGA movement. He was not. Nexstar, the largest owner of local stations in the country, came out and said it, quote, strongly objects to recent comments made by Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC-affiliated markets. And if that were the whole story, he said something, it was not correct, the affiliates pushed back, well, then that would be one story. But that, of course, is not the whole story, okay? Because crucially, just hours before that statement, Trump's hand-picked FCC chairman went on a podcast and suggested ABC's broadcast license or affiliates could be at risk if they did not suspend or fire Kimmel, essentially issuing an order saying, and I quote him here, "We can do this the easy way or the hard way." Well, hours later, ABC made the announcement Kimmel would indeed be taken off the air indefinitely. And this is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless. An extreme campaign that has been on overdrive the past week. I mean, just yesterday, you had the Deputy Attorney General of these United States, the number 2 of the Department of Justice and the former criminal lawyer for the president, suggesting using criminal anti-racketeering laws, the kind of things used for mobsters, RICO statutes, to go after and prosecute protesters who heckled Donald Trump at a restaurant, who yelled at him. We're also getting new reports today. The White House plans to target a variety of left-leaning groups and nonprofits in the coming weeks, all part of a larger and more dangerous effort underway. And it follows a playbook we have seen successfully run in recent years by authoritarian strongmen in places like Hungary and Turkey and Russia. Because in those places, they didn't just criminalize speech they didn't like, though some of them did some of that. Crucially, they made it virtually impossible to see and hear examples of that speech by taking de facto control of the media landscape. In Hungary, for example, the country's oldest newspaper was suddenly shuttered after being bought by a businessman with links to far-right President Viktor Orban. According to Reporters Without Borders, Orban has used media buyouts by government-connected oligarchs to build a true media empire subject to his party's orders. The group estimates such buyouts have given Orban's party control of some 80% of Hungary's media market resources. It is a similar situation in Turkey, where, according to Reuters, the biggest media brands are controlled by companies and people close to longtime leader Recep Erdogan and his AK party, following a series of acquisitions starting in 2008. Then, of course, there's Russia, where oligarchs friendly to President Vladimir Putin control much of the media. Wartime restrictions have shut down the rest. In each of these 3 countries, they didn't just arrest protesters or dissident journalists or show up knocking on the door of magazines. They used government power, and sometimes through legal mechanisms, to essentially roll up all of the country's media into a friendly propaganda arm of the regime. So given that context, I want you to look around the U.S. right now and see what's been happening here, right in front of our eyes. In July, the Trump FCC, that's the entity that Brendan Carr controls, approved the sale of Paramount, with it, CBS, to Skydance Media, which is controlled by the family of pro-Trump tech billionaire named Larry Ellison. It was his son, actually, who's buying it. Now, that approval only came after Paramount paid Trump $16 million to settle the president's obvious, frivolous, ludicrous lawsuit against CBS News and 60 Minutes for editing interviews. And after the Ellisons agreed to eliminate DEI programs, and after they agreed to install an executive, formerly from a conservative think tank, to essentially act as a sort of ideological minder at CBS News for political bias. So they did all those things, then they got the approval for this very, very large merger. After
For
that,
Republicans, the current trajectory raises concern.
Which was notorious for its criticism of the sitting president. Last week, after Larry Ellison officially leapfrogged another pro-Trump billionaire, Elon Musk, to become the world's richest man. The new Paramount conglomerate made another media bid, this time for Warner Brothers Discovery, which just so happens to own CNN. So there's a possibility that they could purchase that and roll that up as well. Then yesterday, we got this news about TikTok. Perhaps you've seen it. Do you remember the Chinese-owned app that was banned as a security risk because of a bipartisan vote in both houses of Congress and signed into law by Joe Biden? And then Donald Trump just literally ignored the law while he searched for a U.S. buyer. Well, yesterday, there was news of a framework of a deal. Interesting. Let's see what the deal is. Gives Americans an 80% stake in TikTok. Which Americans? Well, you'll never guess. Yes, Larry Ellison is one of them, along with far-right venture capitalist, Trump donor, Doge consultant, MAGA backer Mark Andreessen. As Talking Points memo noted, if all those deals all go through, that would mean the Murdoch family controlling Fox News, The Journal, New York Post, its other properties, Twitter, TikTok, CBS, CNN, and more owned by Elon Musk, and the Ellison family, The Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos. The Trump administration is threatening to bring the government down on free speech and use it against dissent. It is also facilitating the sale of some of our biggest private media outlets to Trump allies and is a very obvious attempt to consolidate power over free expression. Ben Rhodes served as Deputy National Security Advisor to President Barack Obama, author of After the Fall, The Rise of Authoritarianism in the World We've Made. David Enrich is a New York Times Deputy Investigations Editor and reporter, author of the much celebrated, well-reviewed Murder the Truth, Fear the First Amendment, and a Secret Campaign to Protect the Powerful. They both join me now. It's good to have you here. Ben, let me just start with you. I said this when Colbert was fired, that it's not too much of an overstatement to say, like, the test of a free society is whether you live in a place where late-night comedians can be on TV making fun of the leader. And I still feel that way, and today feels pretty bad on that score.
No, it feels terrible. And your lead-in was really good, Chris. And frankly, my book that you just put up there goes into a lot of detail about these takeovers of the media. And here's what I'd stress about it. Some people see this and they think, well, you know, it's just one TV show. It's just Stephen Colbert. It's just Jimmy Kimmel. It's just late night. What you have to see it as a part of a concerted strategy.
ABC has indefinitely preempted Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show, following a decision by major affiliates to refuse airing it over controversial comments Kimmel made about the motives behind conservative commentator Charlie Kirk's killer. Kimmel wrongly suggested the perpetrator was part of the MAGA movement, prompting backlash. Nexstar, the largest owner of local stations, stated it strongly objects to the remarks and will replace the program in its ABC-affiliated markets. This development unfolds amid President Donald Trump's escalating efforts to curb free speech and dominate media, rendering First Amendment protections increasingly precarious. Hours before the affiliate's announcement, Trump's FCC chairman Brendan Carr appeared on a podcast, implying ABC's broadcast license or those of its affiliates could be jeopardized if Kimmel was not suspended or fired. Carr framed it as a choice. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Shortly after, ABC pulled the show. Trump's campaign against dissent has intensified recently. The Deputy Attorney General, Trump's former criminal lawyer, suggested using RICO statutes, typically for organized crime, to prosecute protesters who heckled Trump at a restaurant. Reports indicate the White House plans to target left-leaning nonprofits in coming weeks, part of a broader strategy mirroring authoritarian playbooks in Hungary, Turkey, and Russia. In those nations, leaders didn't merely suppress speech, but seized de facto control of media landscapes. In Hungary, Viktor Orban's allies acquired outlets, giving his party dominance over 80% of media resources. Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan facilitated acquisitions by cronies, consolidating major brands under his influence. Russia's Vladimir Putin relies on friendly oligarchs to control media, with wartime restrictions shuttering independence. Similar patterns emerge in the U.S. The Trump FCC approved Paramount's sale, including CBS, to Skydance Media, controlled by pro-Trump billionaire Larry Ellison's family, in July. Approval followed Paramount's $60 million settlement of Trump's lawsuit against CBS News and 60 Minutes for interview editing, plus commitments to eliminate DI programs and install a conservative think tank executive to monitor CBS News for bias. Subsequently, CBS canceled Stephen Colbert's top-rated show, known for Trump criticism. Trump had previously celebrated Colbert's cancellation, predicting Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon next due to low ratings. Last week, after Ellison surpassed Elon Musk as the world's richest, the new Paramount entity bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, owner of CNN. Meanwhile, TikTok, banned as a security risk under bipartisan law signed by Joe Biden, saw a framework deal granting 80% U.S. stake to Ellison and far-right Trump donor Mark Andreessen, ignoring the ban while seeking a buyer. If completed, these deals could consolidate major outlets: Fox News, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Murdoch family, Twitter, Musk, TikTok, CBS, CNN, Ellison, under pro-Trump figures, alongside Bezos-owned Washington Post. This facilitates Trump's consolidation of power over expression using government levers against dissent. Ben Rhodes, former Deputy National Security Advisor under Barack Obama and author on authoritarianism's rise, described it as a concerted strategy. Pro-Trump oligarchs buy media to curry favor, while examples like Kimmel and Colbert's fate send chilling messages to broadcasters. Criticize the leader, risk termination. Rhodes noted it's advanced, drawing from Orban, Erdogan, and Putin's playbooks studied during Trump's interregnum. David and Rich, New York Times investigations editor and author on media threats, joined, emphasizing the ideological enforcement on mass media. The goal: align content with Trump's circle, stifling independent voices reaching most Americans. This wave of actions tests free society's litmus: late-night comedians mocking leaders without repercussion. With Kimmel sidelined, that boundary erodes, echoing authoritarian media captures abroad. As Trump intensifies, questions loom over democracy's resilience against such encroachments.